Thank you so much for braving the weather to come. I understand it wasn't an easy place to find, but I deeply appreciate your presence. I want to thank the Wellesley Center for Women for the opportunity to be a scholar, to learn, to strategize, and to prepare me to go back to the field. I want to thank Layli, the colleagues at WCW, for the friendship and support and a lot of laughter. I want to thank Donna and Megan and the sponsors of WCW. And congratulations for the 2019 International Women's Day. I understand the theme is balance for better. And so it's amazing to be part of this celebration this year. I want to start by a disclaimer. So English is my fifth language. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, just wave at me, and then I will repeat myself over and over if you want me to. I want to speak generally about the project, and I want to speak about it in 5 phases. The first is to introduce the why me, a little bit of my country and why I'm doing what I'm doing. I will talk about the project, the focus of the project. I will speak about Islam and the role of mother, how I intend to go about with the project, who are my audiences for the project, what are the communication strategies I have for the project, and the output. I'll finish with some general thoughts and some specific perspectives. So that is the structure. I want to speak less because I saw that we are not too many, so we will have more of conversation. I want to speak to what you want to hear rather than what I want to tell you. So at the end of it, we'll have a 5 minutes, at the end of my conversation, my presentation, we'll have a 5-minute video as to how I do what I do. I just came back from Nigeria on Sunday, and so you will see the product of what I did to explain this entire concept of Mothers Without Borders, how to steer away youth from violent extremism. So I come from a beautiful country, Nigeria. Nigeria is a little bit complicated in a way. We have over 200 million people, and we are sharply divided, the south and the north. The division sort of split into part of the difficulties we have in the northern part of the country where I come from. So if you meet 10 Nigerians along your way in the United States, 9.5 will come from the south. And this is also because of the difficulties that we have as a nation. And when somebody saw me not too long ago, they asked me, so what are you doing in America? And I said, yes, I'm here to also want to be part of the American dream. So we are divided sharply both based on our resources and exposure and education. We were privileged to have our colonial baggage that we carry with us, which also explain part of the difficulties we have between the North and the South. When the colonial masters came, they sort of came into the South, and the North blocked them from going to the North because we had a system called the indirect rule. So because of the indirect rule, the colonial masters were kept away to the South. So when Islam came from the North, from the triangle of the North Africa through Timbuktu, Ghana, and back to Nigeria. So that's how we became more rooted in Islam. So the division is the North is mainly Muslim, the South is mainly Christian. We have Sharia in the North, there is no Sharia in the South. The Boko Haram is in the North, it's not in the South. The insurgencies we have is in the North, it's not in the South. The kidnap of the girls from schools are in the North and not from the South. And to cap it, it just also lets you know that I also became educated by accident. became a lawyer by accident, and I guess went to teach at Harvard by accident. And this is also part of the history of the North that I just sort of gave you, just so take it in for a moment. We suffered in the North a lot of youth restlessness, poverty, voicelessness, powerlessness, and illiteracy. But why did I start to do what I'm doing in terms of Mothers Without Borders? So in 2014, after a long gig at Harvard, I was invited back home to join an effort to rescue the girls kidnapped by Boko Haram from high school. And so that was a beginning of understanding another depth of how the difficulties of girl-child education is in the northern part of Nigeria. I was in Nigeria for about 4 months, joining effort to rescue them, and I was exposed to so much information. At some point, we could share it during Q&A. In 2015, His Royal Highness of Jordan saw my book online, the first book I wrote, which is Practicing Sharia. It's on Amazon. It was like a bestseller then. And he invited me to come to Jordan. And when I was in Jordan, I spent about a year, and my focus was empowerment of women and training of judges. So during those periods, I got to work a bit closely with a camp called Zatari, which is the biggest camp of refugee that I have had opportunity of working in. It's 1 million, or a little bit over 1 million in Jordan, managed by the Japanese. But I got to understand a little bit about ISIS and how ISIS operates. And now, having come from Boko Haram the year before and understanding ISIS, I was like, oops, okay, there may be some connection. So in 2016, I decided to have a conversation, actually I call it exploratory seminar, at Harvard Radcliffe, my alma mater. I brought women and men from about a dozen countries, mostly from the Middle East, to have a conversation and what do we do about this, our youth and violence. In 2018, fast forward, last year, we had a similar conversation but a bigger scale, where we had about 81 people from over 24 countries participating in a conversation about the same, what is our role as mothers. Those youth that join violence, extremism, Boko Haram, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, mention it, they are children of our womb. What happened? Where did we get it wrong? How did we produce those youth that are so violent? Our womb. So it was that pushed me to wanted to do something. And so that is, for me, the beginning of the entire conversation. So the focus had been social intervention, mothers, wives, grandmothers, female in the lives of the youth. And in Q&A, if you may, we could go a little bit into detail. So now I'll just throw things at you. And we can pick, if you may, pick some few things and we can have a conversation around it. So we focus on the soft mother. I'm trying to focus on what are the soft power of the woman in the lives of the youth or in the home, and how can we use it to change the narrative of extremism. We use time-tested cultural norms in some society like morality and shame, caring and sharing. How do we use local intelligence? So take, for example, when they kidnapped the girls from her high school, the Chibok girls. There's a bigger picture, but I'm zero down on one. The government didn't take action, and this had to do with the difficulties of the North and the South, because the government at that moment in 2014, president is from the South, and the incident happened in the North. So my guess was that there was doubt as whether it was a political motivated narrative that girls were kidnapped. So there were no action taken by government. And there was a major outcry, which made the government to put this presidential team that they asked me to come. Now, I don't know anybody in government. I have no connection to the government in Nigeria. So I was shocked when I traveled to Prague and came back, and I had a voicemail on my telephone and saying something like, oh, we are from the presidency, we want you to come to Nigeria. And I thought that must be fake news. So I'm not going to ever respond to it. It's not worth my response. And the following day, there was a telephone that left. So I called the government, and I ended up going to spend time after they sent me the ticket. The condition was, if you are really real, send me a flight ticket and I'll go. And they sent the ticket, and I ended up in Nigeria. So partly at that moment, the government were a little bit complacent, and I was speaking about local intelligence. So when the girls were allegedly, when they were really kidnapped, not alleged, they were kidnapped, they were taken to a forest called Sambisa. Sambisa is a forest near the desert and located in a very complicated terrain in the country. Now, who knows the forest better than the hunters? We have a lot of lakes in Sambisa. Who knows the lake better than the fishermen? Which other group do you think would have been local intelligence for us? Any idea?
Well, how were the girls taken out?
They were kidnapped from school.
They were taken by trucks, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So why you, okay.
So we are looking for local intelligence on how to get them at that moment they were kidnapped. Any idea? The cow headers.
Yes.
The cow headers are borderless. And so they crisscross all the borders of the West Africa, not only of Nigeria. So these are some of the local intelligence that we missed the opportunity to use, in as much as I will speak to you if you want to know about who gave us drones, who gave us military hardwares, what intelligence officers across the globe that join us, over a dozen countries to come and give us intelligence. We could speak about that. But we do have local ways of trying to solve local challenges. And these are some of the local intelligence, I think, at the beginning that we missed. I just want to mention it. We can have a Q&A later on the strategy. We use time-tested norms such as best practices in local, regional, and national societies. Another focus I had for the project is reinforcing the role of women, mothers as detectives, and we can talk about that shortly. And the next focus I have on the project is to contribute in defeating the ideology of the terrorists. Now, I mentioned Sharia and Islam, and I wanted to sort of underscore the fact that Islam has a lot of respect for women. I know there may be a pushback, and I'm happy to actually entertain that pushback in Q&A. But the Quran made it very, very clear, and I'm going to quote the verse and the chapter and the verse in the Quran, Quran chapter 4, verses 36, and Quran chapter 17, verses 23 to 24. It very clearly states the role of the mother in the life of children. Is that of respect, loyalty, and adoration. She's like the matriarch. As a bond between the mother and the child, especially the male child. And I was reading a hadith of the Prophet where somebody came to him and asked him, so who should my loyalty be? My mother or my father? 3 times the Holy Prophet turned and said, your mother. It's the 4th time that he said, your father. And that is a hadith of Bukhari. And the hadith is 5971. Loyalty and respect to the mother has been enshrined in the Sharia and Islam. How can we use it as a weapon, positive one, to be able to bring our children together away from violent extremism? So let me go to how I intend to go about it, how I've been doing it. I mentioned to you we had conversation, we had exploratory seminar. I have also had informal conversation based on demography and ethnography. I have had field trip. You will see one of the field trips soon. Part of what I'll be doing is questionnaires to individual, Muslim and non-Muslim, to groups, governmental organization and non-governmental organization, local police, prisons. I have attended many meetings that are community meetings, workshop we hope to have, and seminars and reflection on our sessions. Who will be the audience of what I'm doing? The audience is the general public, the policymaker, the community-based organizations, the civil society, professional bodies, religious leaders, institutions, and schools. What will be my communication strategy? I'll focus on grassroots discussion. I will do a lot of road shows, drama, local broadcast on the religious radios, jingles, and song. I'll speak about song in a moment. I intend to involve the fathers as well, the traditional and religious leaders. The output will be policy change, and hopefully a lot of commentaries as well as publish the work. So that's the output. Let me end this session by trying to share a little bit about just some general thoughts. In the work I have done so far, I found out that the oxygen of a terrorist is the media. The media could be social, could be mainstream. Now, the advancement of artificial intelligence and algorithm, I found it even much more faster in reaching out to the extremists and to the terrorists. And how we can, sniff out that oxygen will be something we could have conversation around. Remember, you cannot use somebody's eyes to sleep. It has to be contextual. I found out that the madrasa school, which sounds really interesting in different perspectives, could be a source for good. And I'm just dropping it because I want us to have a conversation around it. Where our thinking stops, there the crime begins. And somebody had asked me, what do Boko Haram want? Or ISIS want?
Fear.
The little bit I've had in the work I've done, they want to die. They will tell you we want to die. And we can have a conversation around that as well. And finally, my personal perspective as to the work that I'm doing and what hopefully we'll keep doing is that I've chosen over my life work to believe in the fact that I can do anything I want to be. And there are a few students here, and I want to encourage you that you can be anything you choose to be. I was educated by accident. I never learned English in the classroom. And I ended up teaching at Harvard, so you can be anything you want to be. The second thing I wanted to say in my personal perspective is I've learned over the time to see with the eyes of my heart. I don't know if you have, maybe you do it much better. The ability to see, not with your normal eyes, but the eyes of the heart. We all have the ability to do that. I've learned to be very curious, extremely determined, and persistent. I'm very adventurous, and I'm extremely comfortable in my skin. Let me suggest here that it never hurts to uphold each other's dignity, to be radically kind, fair, and just. It never hurts to be honest, and to be filled with integrity. That could be our currency. It never hurt to become the authentic us. And I want to say, finally, that I've learned over the years I have been in this field that I choose not to stay still. Actually, I choose not to crawl. I choose not to walk. I choose not to run. And everything I'm given, I want to fly with it. And so for those of us that are younger, fly and be the best you are meant to be. I have a 5-minute video. I will have a conversation. Like I said, I really wanted a conversation rather than me speaking to you to what I want you to hear, but to what you want to know. So, Megan, you want to play the 5 minutes? The 5 minutes, let me make an introduction and thank my friend from Lincoln, Massachusetts, and my friend from Martha's Vineyard, and a lot of you that came from very far, Arlene, and lots that came in from far, not from this community. Lincoln, Massachusetts gave me so much that I could ever imagine. And it started, sorry about this, I'll just say 1 minute narrative. It started after I explained to you those 2 assignments I had in Nigeria. I saw need. And I saw the need to do something. I didn't want anyone to do it. I wanted to do something. So I came to my wardrobe. I didn't tell you that I was a hawker. I was buying and selling anything that is buyable and sellable. Since I was 5, I was buying and selling. And I put it on my head in a tray, and I go from house to sell. And we hardly have 3 square meal in my family. Our village had no road, no electricity, no any facility. So that was my life. And now, all of a sudden, I'm back to the field, 2014, 2017, and I saw need. And my old self came back to me. So I came to my wardrobe, and my wardrobe is pretty big, shamefully. And I looked around, and I would choose, oh, am I going to wear red today? Or maybe gold, or maybe green. And I'll look through the wardrobe and keep going. And one day I just stopped. And I said to myself, who are you? A hawker. You used to hawk. I had one dress. When I wash it in the night, I have to get a bed cover to cover myself because I needed to dry to use it the following day. And I said to myself, who are you? A hawker. You don't deserve what you have in your wardrobe. So that is how it started. So I started removing my things. I said, I don't deserve it. I didn't even look at it. I don't deserve it. I started removing everything. And then I went to my children. I have 2 boys. And I said, if you don't use anything for 2 weeks, and that's what I told myself, if I don't use anything for 2 weeks, I don't need it. If it is not winter clothes, I don't need it. So I packed a couple of suitcases. My children brought their own. We packed it together. And a friend of mine came in, Susie Carl. She lives in Lincoln. And she saw me doing, oh, are you traveling again? I said, not really. I told her the story. And 2 weeks after, she brought the key of her car. It's a suburban Chevrolet. And she said, oh, we also are empty nest. We don't need this. And at that moment, I collected the car. I never know the reality is going to hit me. But cut long story short, the news went into Lincoln, not through me, but friends. And I said, Lincoln Town here, Massachusetts. And it was like, oh, Hauwa is doing this. And it went on the newspaper of the church and the town. And before you say Jack Robinson, I have 3 garages that are empty, and it's covered garages. From the ceiling to the floor, it was full and overflowing. We have to put out announcements, stop it, we cannot take more. And reality also set in anew. I collected those things, how do I get it to Nigeria? And this is a nightmare. And this is a story for another day. It finally arrived in November. I was in Nigeria in January, and I arrived on the 11th, and I left on Sunday. I came back on Sunday. Until the last minute I left, we were distributing those items that I took on the 40-feet container. Actually, my garage, one of my garage is still full with things. The 40-feet container could only take as much. We are able to reach 4,000, or a little bit over 4,000 people, and less than half of the items I took. So what you are going to see now will be a little bit of not saying it, but doing it, and how to do it in order to introduce ourselves to the bigger field of mothers' soft power and getting from society what we can use to build for the next stage. So it's a 5-minute clip, and it's not very clear. It's non-professional. We did it ourselves. So enjoy watching it.
Oh, Kanawa, Kanawa, Ashashai. Oh, Kanawa, Kanawa, Ashashai. Ashashai, Inju Baba Gandu Jakanawa, Wadau Sana, Inju Baba Gandu Jakanawa, Tokanta Biagare, and Zubaria Tabubaria, Ashashai. Kanawa, Kanawa, Ashashai. Yama Armu, Akanawa, Ashashai. Maka shayin ka sha tashi ka kauce, ina haɗa maka bani wuri kada wani ya kubce, haɗin ganduje haɗin madara malan saki buje. Ganduje garkuwar tokar karya, mu ɗan shayi muna faɗin kafu na baya, domin ka wuce masu tallafin boje na karya, ka haɗa mana gara kama da za a raka amarya, kafi san ai sana'a matasa ba sun goma kaya. Sayayyen gwamnan kanan mu ka burje kana a shashayi. A shashayi. Oh, Kanawa, Kanawa. A shashayi. To Kanawa, Kanawa.
My name is Hauwa Ibrahim. I handle the repackaging of the donations into smaller packets that will be distributed. This first phase of distribution is going to Toro and Nasarawa State. For Toro, we have about 45 smaller packets like this, and they have been distinguished into women, men and children. The women having 30 pieces of smaller packets clothing, and the men having 20, with the children having 45, making it 95 pieces. And that is for Nasarawa. It's also distributed in the same fashion, but the contents are different. So the children are having 20 here, the men are having 30, and the women are having 20, making them 70 now. So 70 persons are going to benefit from these packets in Nasarawa, and 95 persons are going to benefit from these packets in
Good evening, my sons. You are welcome. We really thank God Almighty, who has granted you safe journey to come and see us this evening. We really appreciate you. In fact, we like words you say. Where you took and brought things to us, may God repay you 100 posts back.
Amma na sun baya kai na gandujan Kanawa, yau mun san Indiya a bangaren daga shayi, amma kuma bai shan haɗin na gandujan Kanawa. To ai mu shayin kanan gaba ma yin kwanye, bare ma a zuba maka kace an maka coge, daɗin shayin mu yana nazar da girmamme, burodi da bota da kwai iyacin haɗamamme, haɗin mu da tsafta da babu laifi a yi some a sha shayi. Ashashai. Oh, Kanawa, Kanawa. Ashashai. To Kanawa, Kanawa. Okay, Ashashai. Ashashai. Inji Baba Ganduja Kanawa. Wadau Sana. Inji Baba Ganduja Kanawa. To Kenta Biagare. Yanzu Bariya Tabu Bariya. Ashashai. Ashashai. ce tunda ta gandu